Hey, it's Marley. Welcome back to my booktube channel. Today we are starting a brand new reading vlog where I'm going to be attempting to read the longest books on my TBR. So I think last year or a couple years ago, I did a reading vlog where I read the shortest books on my Goodreads TBR, and I thought it might be interesting to just flip that and do the opposite. Am I going to regret this? Maybe. So I'm just gonna quickly introduce you to the books I'm hoping to read in this vlog, and we'll see how far I get. These are quite long, so maybe I won't get to all of them, but I'm really gonna try. So first of all, we have The Winners by Fredrik Backman. This comes in at 670 pages, so nearly 700 pages. I don't know why it's this long, but this is what we're working with. This is the third book in the Beartown series, which is like a literary fiction series about this town, Beartown, which is a hockey town that ends up dealing with this really traumatic event. And then we're just kind of following a bunch of the characters in this town for the rest of the series. So this is the third book. It's very moving. It's very emotional. It also can be very funny in the classic Fredrik Backman way, but you just get so connected to these characters. And so I'm definitely looking forward to reading this book. Fredrik Backman just has such lovely writing that hopefully reading nearly 700 pages is enjoyable and doesn't feel like too much of a chore. Next up, I didn't originally plan to include this book in this video because I thought I would already be done it because it was on like a previous TBR, but we have Iron Flame, obviously the sequel to Fourth Wing, which is a romantasy series with dragons. I am already 100 pages into this book. I started a couple months ago, but I never finished it, so I thought it'd be perfect to read during this vlog because this is such a highly talked about series. You know, it might be interesting for me to share my thoughts on this sequel. A lot of people still loved it as much as the first book, but a lot of people didn't, so I'm definitely interested to see where I'm gonna fall. So far, it is reading very similar to Fourth Wing, so we'll see how it goes. But how long is this one? This one is 623 pages, so kind of similar. It is in the 600 page range. And the third book I'm going to attempt to read in this vlog is Queen of Vaults by Amanda Foody, another book that's in a series. This is the third book in the Shadow Game series. I liked the first book and I did not like the second book, so I'm definitely worried that this is going to be as torturous as the second book was for me to read. But this is a young adult fantasy series that has to do with gangs and gambling, and there is magic and games. It sounds like a really cool premise, and it was in the first book, but in the second book I just did not enjoy the characters and I found it very boring. So we'll see how this one goes. And this one comes in at 632 pages, so it's the second longest one. They're all kind of around the same length, so we're gonna see if I can get to all these books this month, and I will share my thoughts with you as we go. Wish me luck. Hey readers, what's up? It's me, checking in. I've been very disconnected from booktube, to be honest. I guess that's just kind of how it can be in the summer. I have been reading Fredrik Backman's The Winners. That is what I'm here to talk about. But yeah, as a side note, like I've barely been watching booktube. I feel like I'm so behind in my reading plans and like my video plans. It's not really go into plan, but you know what, maybe part of that is that I did the longest books on my TBR vlog because I am 200 pages in, which for a normal book that would be like a pretty decent chunk of the book done, but of course for this one it is not. So maybe that was my bad. But anyways, I have been actually really enjoying this though. Even though it's such a long book, I have a feeling this might be like the best book that I'm gonna read in this vlog. Maybe it'll be the only book I read in this vlog because I'm so behind on everything. But this is of course the third book in the Beartown series. You know, in the first one we were just exploring this violent act that had happened, this rape that had happened to a girl in the town by one of the hockey players, the outcome of that and how all the townspeople reacted because these people still love hockey and just really idolize the hockey players. And in the second book, we got a lot more into the feud between the two towns, the Bear Town and then the town of Head, I believe it's called, and like the feud that they have when it comes to hockey and everything. And this third book is still focusing on that, and we're still focused on our same characters with a few new ones introduced. And then we do have, not to spoil, but we do have a death in this book that also is kind of bringing back some of our characters who had left Beartown. It is a mystery at first of who it is going to be, but I have found out by this point. It is sad, but yeah, at this point I'm just very connected in all these characters. I'm definitely interested to see where they all end up. Again, I never thought I would care about hockey so much. It's about so much more than hockey in this book. Like, you definitely don't need to like sports or hockey to enjoy this, but I think if you do, it will just give you that little extra reason to love it. But yeah, Fredrik Backman's writing is one of those writing styles that is really bingeable and easy to read, and so I think it's really just the fact that I haven't had a ton of time to read with going to some cottages and work stuff that's been going on. But when I have been reading, it has been flying by, so I'm looking forward to keep reading this, and that's, I guess, all I can really say at this point. Give us a book haul from Indigo. Carmilla, why'd you get that one?
Because
when I gave it not a great review.
it was the first vampire book.
For your collection.
I got the King in Yellow.
And that's the one you were more excited about?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't remember. I want to read it.
I'm not gonna have much footage for my vlog, so I need you to help.
And then I got this.
What is that one?
I don't know. I needed 3 books for $10.
Nice deal. Which one are you gonna read first?
Not until September.
Oh. What's your favorite book on your shelf?
The Stand.
The Stand. That's your number one rec?
Maybe. I don't know, I can't think there's too much pressure.
Okay. Hey readers, just thought I'd check in for the vlog because I'm now over 400 pages into one of the longest books on my TBR. It's a Sunday, so I've had time to read a little bit. I'm catching up on chores, doing things around the house and all that. Unfortunately, I feel like I'm starting to get a little bit over this book. I still agree with a lot of what I said before of like the positive things and what I've enjoyed throughout the whole series, but I'm just starting to feel like this story is getting dragged out. It's not that complex of a story, and this is now the third book following it, and I feel like this book just didn't need to be this long. We're getting really into so much like political stuff. I feel like there's a little bit less focus on the characters. We're having less focus on our, favorite characters from the previous books. We're getting more like new ones. As I said, it's just getting very political and focused on like finances and corruption that's going on between the two towns of like Beartown and Head, and so I just think it's feeling a little bit unnecessary. That being said, I still enjoy it. I still enjoy Fredrik Backman's writing. There's still good stuff going on, but I just feel like this book was not needed overall. Definitely could have been shorter. So I do think if you read this series, like, you actually can stop after each book. I feel like the first book could stand alone. If you decide to continue with the second book, that's great, because that one was still really good, but I feel like you don't even need to read the third one. They all kind of end in a place where you don't have to continue if you don't want to, which is kind of nice that Fredrik Backman did that. This one, yeah, it's just a lot of extra stuff. I am kind of curious of what's going to happen in the end, of course, but I'm definitely feeling like, okay, this is a little bit long, which is kind of to be expected in a vlog like this, reading the longest books on my shelf. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. I think this is going to be my least favorite book of the series. I still feel like it'll be 4 stars, like still good, but I'm just like not loving it as much as it was before, I don't know if you can see the tears on my face. I actually don't think you can, but I literally just finished this 1 second ago and I have been crying. It was a really upsetting ending for certain characters for certain reasons. I don't want to spoil, but I am very upset. I am very upset about a sort of thing that happened that was hinted at kind of throughout the book, but I didn't quite accept it because these books have done that a lot, where they hint toward, they make you think something's gonna happen, but then it's different than what it seems. But no, something like my favorite character is killed, and it's so upsetting. Like this, okay, so the last part of the book, I know I was talking about it dragging a lot, and I stand by everything I've said previously, but in the last bit, like, there is a lot of violence. We have certain reveals. It goes back to some of the original topics that were discussed in the first Bear Town regarding sexual assault against girls in this town. It kind of goes back to its roots with that. It's very upsetting. There's multiple deaths. There's multiple deaths in this book. There's so many sad things, and obviously there's also still uplifting and happy things. I mean, this is a long book. That's the point of this vlog, and so a lot does happen in this book, actually. So I do, I'm glad I read it. I think it's worth it to read if you are a fan of the series. However, I kind of want to not recommend people read it just because I think it's so sad, like, especially if you love some of these characters, like in particular the character that does pass away that I'm mentioning. I don't want to spoil who it is, but it's a very beloved character. And so I kind of want to save people from it if you also love this character, and you can just have your own idea of how their story ends. It's a rough week for this because I also am watching The Walking Dead for the first time. I didn't watch it while it was airing, but I'm watching it now, and I'm on season 8. And literally, was it last night or 2 nights ago? Episode 8, season 8, episode 8. So if you know, you know. One of my favorite characters on The Walking Dead also died. So back to back devastation. Like, it's been a while since I've been so impacted by fictional characters' death. But yeah, Walking Dead last night was so upsetting. I was so shocked. There's certain deaths in Walking Dead that I had kind of heard of just as someone who just was on the internet while it was airing. So some deaths have not been surprising, but this one, I don't know. I do not remember hearing about this death that happened in season 8, episode 8 or whatever. Like, I'm pissed about it, to be honest. Not to go completely off topic, but I'm honestly very upset about what happened in Walking Dead. And it's a similar feeling to this. Like, I'm very upset about this. That being said, amazing book. I mean, if you've read any Fredrik Backman book, you know what you're getting. Like, it is amazing characters and story and writing. And so I am gonna give it 4 stars just because what I was saying before, it did start to get quite feeling like, okay, we're dragging the story out. Another reason it's not 5 stars is because I'm genuinely upset. I really am. Like, I do like bittersweet stuff. I think, there's a lot of stories you read and they aren't willing to go to that level of, like, killing characters. So I guess, he does that in here, but what is your favorite? Like, when it's like... Anyways, it is like halfway through the month and I've only read 2 books. But this can kind of count as 2 books in a way with how long it is. So I might take a little break from this vlog and try and read something else. And then I will try to get into my next long book. But I kind of want to read a shorter book first, just to kind of feel a little bit more momentum with my reading. So I guess I will just check in when I have gotten into my next long book. I'm thinking Iron Flame because I have already started that technically. So... Hey vlog, I am back from my little break from this video. I read another shorter book quickly and now I have dove back into Iron Flame, which I had started months ago. I am now over 200 pages in, so I thought I would just do an actual update for this. Obviously it's the sequel to Fourth Wing, which I gave 4 stars. I liked the first book overall, wasn't obsessed with it. This second book is very polarizing. I see a lot of people hate it and DNF, and a lot of people who still really love the series. I'm feeling a little bit in the middle right now. Obviously, I still have a lot more of the story to get through, but so far it is feeling very similar to the first book, where we have Violet, who is still in her training to become a dragon rider. And so we're still seeing a lot of her day-to-day training with her other classmates or whatever, her fellow riders. But now she has learned so much more information from the first book, and I won't get into it for spoilers, but obviously some traumatic things happened to her in the first book, and she learned a bunch of secrets that sort of their society and the higher ups in their society are keeping from everyone. So she's in this difficult position of knowing about these secrets, but having to keep them a secret still, and especially keeping them a secret from some of her closest friends. She also is just trying to survive, as people still are wanting her dead. A lot of people within their school are wanting her dead. So it is feeling quite repetitive to Fourth Wing, which is one of the major critiques. So I definitely understand that. I understand why people would be annoyed with that. And I also am feeling like a little bit bored, like, okay, I already read, a long book in the first book about this, and now we're continuing with the same structure and same story. So it has been making me a little bit bored, not gonna lie. But I will say, in the last maybe 100 pages, I feel like the action has been ramping up a bit, and it's been exciting me a little bit more. So I have hope that this was just Rebecca's way to kind of introduce us again to this story, and now maybe finally we're going to get off a little bit from the typical trajectory that we followed in the first book. In terms of the romance between Violet and Xaden, I was a fan of it in the first book. I just didn't like how kind of quickly they got together, because I prefer more of a slow burn. But I do kind of like the conflict that they have in this book that's kind of keeping them apart. We have an external factor of Xaden now no longer being at the school, so we have like a physical distance between them, and they're only able to see each other on the weekends, and even then they aren't always able to have a lot of time together. And then they have the internal conflict where Violet feels like she cannot trust Xaden because Xaden does not trust her, and there's some like communication issues. And I feel like those issues are working for me, like it makes sense, and it is kind of creating more of the slow burn effect. Like, I'm glad they're not just continuing to be a couple and being together. That would be really boring, I think. So I like that they're having these issues, the angst is continuing. So yeah, so the romance actually is working for me in this one. I just hope that that continues and they don't get together too quickly again. Also, with this being the second book, I am feeling quite connected to quite a few of the characters. Obviously, this series is known for having a lot of deaths, and that is kind of continuing a little bit, but there are certain characters that we've now seen for 2 books, and I'm quite invested. Like Violet, obviously the main character, and her best friend Rhiannon are 2 of my favorites. So I am liking this. I'm not dreading reading it by any means, and I'll try to do another check-in before I finish, maybe at like the 400 page mark, similar to how I did in Beartown, or sorry, The Winners, and we can see how I'm feeling at that point. Part 2. Hey readers, I am back to check in. It has been, I think, a couple days since my last update. Since then, I was in a car accident. Clearly, I am okay. Everyone involved is okay, so that's the most important thing. But obviously, this has been upsetting for the week. I'm sore. I have some like bruising and scrapes on my shoulder, on my legs. But you know what? We're surviving. We're okay. The car is not. But anyway, that's how this week is going. I have continued to be reading Iron Flame. I'm now about 450 pages in, so we're getting there. We're getting through it, but it is certainly taking longer than I thought. I wanted to upload this vlog. Well, originally, probably weeks ago, I wanted to upload this vlog. I was planning to upload it tomorrow, but clearly that is also not happening. So you're probably seeing this like the last week of July, because these long books, who would have thought, are taking a long time to read. Honestly, coming up with this vlog theme maybe was was not the best to do. But you know what? We're here, and so I'll update you. I do think that I got to this point while reading the winners as well, where you're just starting to feel like, okay, this book is too long. Like, it's longer than it needs to be. There's certain things that were getting dragged out a little bit, I feel, and repetitive, like I was mentioning before. But I will say the story did finally take a turn, and I feel like new things are finally happening. New characters are coming in. There's a new setting. So it's finally feeling like the pacing is better and I'm invested. You know what I mean? So it's not going terrible. It's just, it is feeling like, okay, this is a bit long. Like, I kind of want to get through this story quicker. So I think moving forward, instead of reading like multiple long books in 1 month, definitely going to try and spread it out. Definitely not going to do this type of vlog or challenge again. In terms of the romance, I know I was saying I was liking the angst and stuff that was going on. I will say that doesn't last the whole book. They have been having like cute scenes together and kind of getting back together, not to spoil, but yeah. So that's been fine, but the thing that's bugging me about the romance in particular is that it's getting to be that trope, you could say, of like the guy being overprotective of the girl. And it reminds me of back in the day reading Twilight, and Edward was so overprotective of Bella, and that really bugs me, that type of dynamic. And I think that wasn't really happening in the first book, so I preferred their dynamic in the first book. So I find it annoying to read that kind of dynamic. That is something that is annoying me a bit about the romance, but otherwise I still do like them, and I do like both the characters individually and stuff too. So I'm feeling like maybe this will be a 4-star again, like the first one, maybe 3.5, just because I'm like, whenever a book starts to feel long and sluggish, it's like I'm also getting worried because I feel like we haven't had like a major death in a while. I just know from the first book, I feel like the author's willing to do that. We have so many characters at this point that I'm kind of afraid there will be a death of a character I really care about. So yeah, at this point I'm just kind of feeling over this vlog. To be honest, I don't think I should have done this vlog reading the longest books on my TBR. I don't know why I thought that would be fun. I guess just because I did the shortest, I thought it would be nice to even out and do the longest, but I don't recommend doing this type of vlog. I'm gonna have a very low amount of like books read this month because I'm spending so much time on these long books, and I'm only gonna read 2 of them rather than the 3 I originally planned. That's gonna be my update here. Hopefully my shoulder gets better, it starts being less sore by the next time I check in, and hopefully I'm done this book. That will be my next update when I finally finish this, and then we can move on. But I will say, actually, before I end this clip, like the people who are hating on Iron Flame and DNFing it, I think that's a bit extreme. I feel like if you like the first book, you can still like this. I guess you just have to get through the first 300 pages, and then you'll get some more development in the plot. But for the people who are really hating on it, I don't think that's really warranted. In my opinion, I think it's an alright book. I don't think it's worth DNFing. I did it! I finally finished Iron Flame after starting it in May. Finally done it, finally done this vlog. But yeah, this had a very strong ending, and so I decided to rate it 4 stars, similar to what I rated the first book, or the same that I rated the first book. There was, of course, as in most fantasy books, a big action scene at the end, or like a big battle, which is always very exciting, very tense. I really enjoyed reading it. I feel like it was easy to understand, because I feel like I don't always love action battle scenes in books or even in movies. I'm not a big action person, but I feel like it was, as I already said, interesting, scary, because as I said earlier, I'm very connected with a lot of these characters. There was death, there was sadness. I did tear up a bit, but it wasn't too devastating, thankfully. And then we had a couple twists at the end of the book, which I don't want to spoil, but I thought they were, kind of interesting, intriguing ones for the rest of the series, kind of upsetting. One of the twists was kind of upsetting, so I think it will be interesting to continue with the series, read the 3rd book, which I know has been announced. Do not recall when it's coming out, but probably this year. So yeah, overall, I think I would recommend this series. If you liked this first book but didn't read the second one for some reason, I still would recommend you check it out, because I do think it's pretty decent, pretty entertaining. Again, not obsessed, not my absolute favorite, but I still enjoyed it. Overall, did I enjoy doing this vlog? As I talked about before, not really. I think if I'm gonna read a long book, like over 600 pages, pages like these, I need to do like one a month. Like I don't think I should pack in multiple like I did for this vlog. I kind of had a feeling I would regret it at the beginning of the video, if you guys remember. Yeah, at least I did it. At least I got 2 big books off my shelf, 2 sequels to a series, which is something that I'm not good about keeping up with. So it was a productive vlog, even if the books read is going to be lower for this month because I spent so much time reading these long books. Feel free to let me know a comment down below, either about these books, or do you like reading long books? Do you avoid them? Have any thoughts on that? Let me know. In terms of from the car accident, I will say my shoulder is feeling better every day, so that is going well. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you in my next video soon. Bye.